Welcome to Dark Loops and the What If Crew, a podcast for discussing the new Marvel series, What If? I'm your host, Dr. Scott Jordan, aka Zombie Scotty, cognitive psychologist, philosopher from Illinois State University. And tonight we discuss episode 3, What If the World Lost Its Mightiest Heroes? Fellow members of the What If Crew, please introduce yourselves and say a few words about why you like this show. And we'll start with Eric.
So I'm Eric Wesselmann, a social psychologist at Illinois State University, and I just really like the show because it provides the opportunity to run these different simulations to kind of think about how tweaking one small event could completely change the context.
Yeah, fantastic. How about you, Stanford?
Hi, I'm Stanford Carpenter. I'm a cultural anthropologist coming to you out of Chicago, Illinois. Yeah, I mean, I find the idea of what if to be really interesting. I admit I run hot and cold on what if, and that's kind of what makes it interesting. I love the hots, I love the colds.
All right, fantastic. How about you, Daniel?
Well, I've mentioned why I like the show overall before in previous episodes, so I guess maybe I'll say something about the episode itself this time, which is that I didn't like it.
So Daniel doesn't like the show. There you go. No,
I like the show. I just didn't like the episode.
No, I totally get it. Friends, audience, it's my pleasure to introduce the one, the only, the hardest working man in comics, Mr. Victor Dandridge Jr. Victor, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
Tell everybody who you are and tell them why you like What If in fact you do.
Sure. I'm a self-publishing comic creator, newly dubbed phenomenological narratologist. Thank you for that title. I appreciate that. It's going on all my business cards and a t-shirt. Overall, I enjoy the prospect of What If. When it comes to this specific episode, I have some very specific thoughts from a storytelling standpoint that I can't wait to get into later.
Oh, that's fantastic. So in the tradition of What If, we're going to ask ourselves, what if with the What If game? On that note, I'm going to turn it over to Daniel, the master of ceremonies. Daniel, take it away.
All right, thank you, Scott. And so I'm going to do a screen share for our audience as well as our contestants. All right, can you all see that?
Absolutely.
Yes.
All right, so this week's question is, what if Hank Pym had managed to kill not just the heroes that he killed in episode 3 of What If, which is the most recent episode, as listeners know, if they've seen the episode, if not, spoiler alert, the what if is basically what if Hank Pym had just killed all the Phase 1 Avengers, except for Captain America. So the question is, what if Hank Pym had managed to kill not just those guys, but also Captain America, Captain Marvel, because as we know, those are the sort of two survivors in this episode, and also, in addition to them, all the Phase 2 and Phase 3 heroes that we come to meet later, such as Spider-Man, Black Panther, Doctor Strange, and just all of them, basically all present and future MCU heroes. Okay, so that was the what if question. Everyone anonymously sent in their answers.
Daniel, before we go any further, can I say you have some serious bass in your voice, man. You really carry well at the low registers. I'm just saying, I get all aggressive.
Stop flirting for points, Scott. Saying, Stop it. That's not how you get extra points.
It's all about the bass.
I see what you're doing.
I am a neutral arbiter. I'm a neutral arbiter.
Just being nice, man. What the hell?
You're not getting any points for that. I can rethink that. Yeah. Okay.
All right. So I rolled a 6 for charisma. Is that what you're saying?
All right. So answer number 1. While this is a fun question, with the who would win question being a staple of comic book fandom, the format uncovers a significant challenge for anyone to properly answer. One of the key tenets of any who would win narrative is that it is generally absent of continuity consistency and must be answered with as close to total objectivity as possible. Considering that the majority of the characters in the Phase 2 and 3 roster were introduced into the MCU by one of the Avengers murdered in this episode, it's more reasonable to believe that either A, Pym would never even know of their existence. So like, how could he kill Spider-Man if he doesn't even know Spider-Man exists, kind of thing? Or B, the events that precipitated their introduction would never have occurred. In any event, you must remember, Pym himself doesn't have any powers, and his attacks only worked against people who aren't consistently imbued with powers of their own. So I know I'm supposed to be the neutral
That's some
facilitator
Stanford
here,
stuff
but
right there.
so I'm supposed to be the neutral facilitator, but like, wait, doesn't Hulk have powers? He was also murdered.
Uh-oh.
Well, wait. We're talking
Daniel's
about
picking on
this,
the
this
quest
newest
answers
episode,
now,
right?
I'm gonna pick on all the answers a little bit, just so you can't tell.
You know,
So-
Scott, you almost had me on this. I almost thought this was going to be someone else.
Yeah.
You know, but I feel like there needs to be. You really needed to put the word ontological in here.
What
Also-
a good word. What does
It's
that
like,
mean?
it's like, wait,
What is
yeah.
That would have
ontological?
given it up. I had it in there and then I
What's
pulled it out.
ontological mean? I don't know what that word means.
The study of what
So
is
Scott-
reality.
So Scott, the Hulk doesn't have powers?
dude. Okay, all right.
No,
It's not
I
on my
kept it
end.
Yeah,
up.
but this is problematic on its face because you're right. Pym doesn't have any powers, but he has powers that are given to him, like his ability to shrink, and it's established that Pym was functioning as the Ant-Man before any of these characters
That's true.
existed.
That's true.
So he does predate all of them. He does predate all of them with abilities.
Well, okay, so
So,
wait. Based on
yeah.
this episode, though, in answer to Daniel's question, his ability to affect Hulk only worked because he attacked Banner, not Hulk. If he tried to do that to Hulk, I don't think that would have worked because the first thing that had to happen was he had to be shot. He had to get injected into him, which could only happen to Banner.
Got
So
it.
Right,
Banner,
but he could,
Banner
he could've-
doesn't have powers.
all he
Hulk
had to-
does,
All he had to do
right?
was find some object that he could stick inside of Hulk somehow.
Oh my God, this is so dirty.
And make it expand, and he could have wiped out the Hulk.
That's the Thanos principle. That's what everybody swore was gonna happen in Endgame, was that Ant-Man was gonna be the one to knock out Thanos. That is dirty. Okay.
Yeah, dirty, man.
That is
But
dirty.
he was clearly playing dirty. He's a bad guy. Bad guy.
Well,
I
okay.
think
Okay,
we're
wait,
using
wait.
the word dirty in very
Here's-
different contexts.
Here's my
Yeah.
here was always my question when it came to that, though, and I do think that this episode answers it better, which is people thought that if Ant-Man crawled into, we'll say, Thanos's rectum and decided to grow, that it would destroy Thanos. But that is only on the basis that Thanos's internal structure is as soft as ours. If his internals are as hard as his externals, Ant-Man would have just crumbled and been something that he pooped out bloodily later.
Yeah,
Like-
and you guys never heard
It's
of the
getting too
kidney
graphic.
stone, man.
Exactly. Kidney stone tactics.
Oh my
He would have
God.
expanded only to find like Thanos's bladder is not one to be messed with.
Not
It just
to
would have
be
been like,
messed with.
But you see, this is what gets me. Like, what always bothered me about that one was it's a suicide mission, right? And
it is.
and who wants to deal with the smell? Who wants to, I mean, at that size. I'm just saying, you take an object. So what you do is you get a piece of metal, say
Right.
something like vibranium.
Right.
You stick it in someone's nose far enough so it's near the brain, and you make it grow,
Mm.
and it will just sit there and put pressure on things that can't
Don't
handle
do
the
well
pressure.
under pressure.
See, that's so funny. I would do the exact opposite. My thing would be if I get into a person like that, I'm going to use the shrinking aspect and I'm going to create a gap of air in their blood flow so that even if you find out like what happened to them, it's, oh, they had a stroke, or, it's something that you go medically, oh, this just happened. It's a tragedy, but this is
I think my point is proven, right? That there is a way for Hank Pym to kill anyone.
You don't get to brag about a stroke later
Right.
at the
I
bar.
don't know, man. Like,
All right, we got to move on. I need a
sorry.
referee's whistle.
All right.
All I'm gonna say
Good
is that
one,
if Kevin Smith is watching this, we totally need to be in Mallrats too.
yes. Forget the things thing.
There you go.
Okay, moving on.
That's a good one.
Answer
Good job,
num-
Scott.
Answer,
Thank you very
yeah,
much.
sorry for picking on your answer, Scott.
No, it's
a-
okay, man.
It's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, answer number 2. DC Comics gained control of the comics market. Oh, this is a meta answer.
This is.
However, given
But I was
DC's
going for it.
utter lack of humor, Good job, Eric. DC's utter lack of humor. Given DC's utter lack of humor, Image Comics formed sooner in our reality. But instead of Spawn, a younger Todd McFarlane creates gentler stories about troubled superheroes and fills the narrative void due to there being no Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. Of course, in McFarlane's version, Spider-Man first goes to hell for having allowed Uncle Ben's death, but eventually comes back as a hybrid demon / Venom / Peter Parker. McFarlane simply can't help himself. Oh yeah, and DC still struggles to make a decent movie.
Shots fired.
Good
Shots
one,
fired.
Mm.
Shots fired. That's brilliant.
See,
All
as
right.
you're reading
Good
this, all I
job,
can think of
Eric.
as I watch my own reactions as I'm laughing at things. It's like I need a better poker face.
There you go.
That's a good
Poker
one.
face or just laugh at everything. That you know.
There you go. There you
Yeah.
go. There you
Yeah.
go. There you go. Okay, so
All right.
this one
Yeah.
though has a lot of interesting, very metatextual concepts here. Like this is not really delved into the MCU at all, which is it's kind of fun. That's kind of fun. Someone
Well, it
had
was
fun
a
with
bad
this one.
episode. Why would I delve into
The MCU killed itself, right?
It killed itself. That's oh my god. When the
It-
MCU gets hit with a PEM particle and it shrinks down into the quantum realm,
Boom,
this is what
gone.
happens. This is what happens, y'all.
The
Yeah,
void has new
image.
meaning.
You want quantum ants? That's how you get quantum ants. Oh
this,
my god, that's a good one.
Gets me thinking about all kinds of sort of philosophical implications. Like it affects the meta universe beyond
Yeah.
the meta universe that created the MCU universe, and then it's giving me a headache.
Love it. No, listen, the only thing I want to throw in there is that when Spider-Man goes to hell, he's confronted by the hybrid Uncle Ben demon thing, and it's called Venom. That's what it is. That's what gets him. It's Venom. Yes.
There you go.
and his partner Mary Jane.
I love it.
And they tell him he had it wrong the entire time.
The whole time.
Wasn't great power and great responsibility.
Speaking of Spider-Man, Todd McFarlane, one of my to this day favorite image or drawing of Spider-Man is the cover of, remember that Todd McFarlane Spider-Man #1
Mhm.
where it's just like him really up close and all that webbing behind him. I don't know how to
Mhm.
describe it, but that was an awesome cover.
Absolutely.
All right, moving on to answer number 3. Loki would rule the earth since there are no superheroes to stop him. But like all oppressors and colonizers, he would recklessly exploit both humanity and all natural resources until Earth reaches an apocalyptic state. Sophie, the female version of Loki from the Loki TV show, would then use this dying Earth as one of her hideouts while evading the TVA. The TVA would then send, typo there, send a different variant of Loki to look for her. That Loki would come to Earth, sees how the Loki who conquered Earth got what he wanted, but that power is ultimately meaningless. So he wants to make the world a better place, takes a look at himself and makes that change.
Ooh, ooh, na 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 na. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to give that away.
I
You know,
think the
Batman
game
said that.
wins.
I didn't mean to give that away.
Batman's very wise.
The game wins, man.
Saying.
Victor's singing.
I'm
Damn.
just saying, like that's
The game wins.
By the way, I for all the answers, I did sometimes when I felt necessary, a tiny bit of like editing if I saw like a typo or whatever. But if I missed a typo or something, I also apologize.
Yeah,
That's
that's
all right.
precisely why I refused to let you be co-host for a long time.
he's moving in. He's moving in.
I'm just telling you.
This is a good one. This is a good one. I don't want to say
All
anything
right.
else about this one. I don't want to get
All
in
right.
the way.
All right, moving on then. Answer number
Mhm.
4. At a minimum, the Chitauri would have conquered Earth and paved the way for Thanos' eventual arrival. Thanos would have acquired all of the Infinity Stones earlier than he did in the regular MCU, save maybe the Soul Stone, because none of the Avengers would have been there to delay their acquisition. Thus, Thanos' plan for a random genocide would have occurred and would not have been reversed. Though, if he lived long enough, he would have realized that eventually the various species would have reproduced to reach their previous levels. I think I accidentally messed something the editing when I was editing it. Sorry,
As all. Yep.
whoever this person is, I'm so sorry. I think I remember the previous levels of potential or something like that. I think it was. And all he did was become a genocidal madman, delaying the inevitable. He should have just stuck with his original motivation to impress death.
But it was efficient though. Like it's about efficiency.
No,
That's
Victor, don't try to deflect it.
No.
I know you really are a Thanos hater.
It's
No.
it's efficient. It's not genocide because it's random. Okay,
Nah.
it's random.
But they already had
How would
Death Cast.
Thanos
man.
wouldn't necessarily required all the Infinity Stones. He still would have had to come to Earth to do it.
to snap.
He would have had to come to Earth to like
No. He wouldn't have had to come to Earth at all.
the Tesseract.
Tesseract's not on Earth. Is it?
This
No,
is why we
the
play
Tesseract's
game.
still on Earth. The Mind Stone's not. That's right. The Mind Stone's not.
The
He has the
Tesseract was
Mind
on
Stone.
Earth. No, there are multiple ones that were on Earth.
That one, maybe the Time Stone, Tesseract and Time Stone. That would be
Stone
it.
is on Earth because it's Doctor Strange.
Not
But
yet.
if Doctor Strange would have been killed,
Yeah.
It would have still been it would have been another one of the sorcerers.
It would have been, well, the ancient one would have had it, right?
Right.
So as long as he can go up against the ancient one, that would have been fine. The real question, though, I think the issue is he never would have found the ether. Never could have found the ether. Because that was an accident that happened in Thor 2,
Right.
purely by accident. He never would have found that one. I think
What
he
you do
has
is-
a beat on all of them except for that one.
Yeah, what you do is you pay close attention to see who's defending an answer the most vigorously, and then that it's definitely that person. So I think this answer is Victor's.
I didn't think that through. Damn
I
it.
do
Okay.
agree that they should have stuck with the impressing death plot. They already had death in the MCU from
that's right.
Ragnarok. She nailed the role. And if I were Thanos, I probably would have found her very, very interesting as well.
Oh,
So,
really?
Hit you with that.
Well, this brings in the comics because
Yeah.
wasn't like it was only in the comics that he wanted to impress death. That wasn't really part of
Yes.
his motivation in the MCU at all, right?
No.
Right.
Yeah.
It was hinted at his first tease at the end of Avengers, because it was the and I can't think of the guy that his minions thing that was like, to keep attacking Earth is to court death, and he turns around and he smiles like, that's right. So it was
Yeah,
teased, but
well,
they
good
went
for
away
them.
from that quickly.
There you go.
Yeah.
well, and since you mentioned Kate Blanchett, right? I mean, did anybody else think that this is what would have happened had she taken the ring as Galadriel?
Definitely. Yeah.
I know I'm mixing my universes here.
No.
and the mouse doesn't know them all yet.
No. You are correct, sir. You are correct. Yeah.
Given it's a Tolkien world in that world, and it's an
Mhm.
MCU world, you're right. It would have been a fairly, dare I say, black and white outcome. Black or
I
white
agree with this. I agree
outcome,
with
right?
this.
There would have been no, ooh, let's look at beautiful, interesting death. It wouldn't, no, she's bad, or no, she's good. So I think you're right on that.
Good call. It's a good call.
All right, moving on. Answer number 5. The Abomination, Crimson Dynamo, Whiplash, Winter Soldier, Modru. Is that? I never knew how to pronounce his name. Is that right, Modru?
More. I don't know which one that is.
Is this another one of those Daniel editing things?
No. Is that that's the guy from Doctor Strange, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm
His friend.
thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't like that dude. I think it's Mordo. Yeah, I think it's Mordo. Yeah, I didn't like
I just had
Doctor
a brain
Strange.
fart.
Let
Yeah,
me
of
be
course.
honest. I didn't
Yeah.
like Doctor Strange.
All right, Vulture, Ghost, and Killmonger. The best they are at what they do. The first and the last line. The wrath and fury at the center of Loki's ever-expanding Terran galactic empire.
Mhm.
They are the redeemed. They are redeemers. They are the best chance for peace in the galaxy. And as darkness falls upon the galaxy, sentients big and small pray that they are a match for the Mad Titan and his living planet, whose return has been foretold.
Whoa!
Sorry again with the editing. I had one job.
This is
You did it really well.
This is major. This is major. This is major.
Mm. Well, you guys are having fun with these answers. This is fantastic.
All right. So I guess so those are all the answers. Just do a super quick review.
Yeah.
Yeah,
good
so that was
idea.
answer one. Remember, it's a who would win thing. Answer number two was a whole meta thing about DC gaining control. This is when you can be writing your answers. Number three was the whole thing about kind of making reference to the Loki TV show and the TVA. Number four was the one about the Chitauri and Thanos' plan. Number five was about basically the villains of the MCU kind of rising up as a resistance.
Could you
right.
go back to 4 real quick?
Go back to 4. Okay.
Just real quick.
No cheating, Scott. No
I'm
cheating.
not cheating, man. I'm just looking for certain keywords and certain personalities.
He just wants to see his answer again. He's so proud of it.
I worked hard, man. All those words. All right, let me see. All right. I'm in.
Okay. So, as
hands up.
I'm gonna stop this screen share. All right, is everybody ready to give me your answers?
You have to tell us to lock in our answers, man.
Lock in your answers.
I did so. I'm just.
Got it.
I like that.
Okay,
button
so
press.
I'm gonna go clockwise as I see it on my screen. So that would be Stanford. Please tell us from order 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Read who you think. We'll say the numbers. Like number 1, the person's name. Number 2, the person's name.
Number 1, Scott.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, Victor.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3, Eric.
Mm-hmm.
Number 4, Daniel.
Mm-hmm.
Number 5.
Oh snap! Oh snap!
Wait, sorry, I didn't see. I was looking at my memo. What'd you say? Number 5?
Himself.
He said himself.
Okay, gotcha.
He said himself.
Gotcha. All right. Very good.
Damn it! I got one wrong.
Next is Victor. Please, same format, please. Number 1, number 2, and the answer.
Got you. Number 1, me.
Okay.
Number 2, I know. Look at it. Number 2, I thought Stanford. Number 3, Scott. Number 4, Eric, and number 5, I thought was Daniel.
Okay.
So I think I got 2 of them mixed.
Okay. Very good. Let's see, going right. Okay. Next is Scott.
All right. The answers I had. Oh, oops. All right.
Hey, I said lock in your answers. Too late to change.
No, they're like, no. My headphones came out, man. I was plugging.
Sure.
All right, here we go. Number 1 is Eric.
Okay.
Number 2 is Scott.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3 is Daniel.
Mm-hmm.
Number 4 is Stanford.
Mm-hmm.
And number 5 is Victor.
Okay.
I got at least one right,
so
man.
good.
Very good. Okay, Eric.
Number 1 I struggled with, but I crossed out my first answer, which maybe I shouldn't have, and I ended on Daniel.
Okay.
2 Stanford, 3 Scott, 4 myself, and 5 Victor.
Okay. So I'm going to actually go back to that screen share just so we can see. You see the answer number 5?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So this one, the who would win one is Victor.
Mm-hmm.
I should have stuck with my first one. I tell all my students, right? Stick with the first answer.
Stick with the first one. Don't challenge yourself. Don't challenge yourself.
Yeah, should have taken your own advice, sir.
I love it.
All right.
But Victor, you were wrong.
What am I wrong about?
You were just wrong.
What?
Like this
What?
whole idea that
What?
the MCU is not going to come into existence because these people die.
I got something for you. When we get into the big conversation about this
All right.
episode, I'm ready. I'm so ready. That's why I would listen. I'm not gonna front. That is literally why I wanted to do the game first, because I was like, as soon as I start talking about this episode, they're gonna know this one was me. They're gonna know.
Because I actually went through every movie to figure out what the implications would be, and that's how I arrived where I was at.
Wow.
And you did that right now.
That's fair.
While you were listening to the answer.
That's fair.
Wow. All righty. Answer number 2 is Scott.
Good job,
Better
Scotty.
one.
Thank you very
So
much.
you
I want
chose
some
Scott.
humor on that one.
I didn't see that one. That was a
All
good
right.
one.
Answer number 3 is yours truly.
Good job. Good job.
Make that change.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Wait a minute. Yours truly is Daniel, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm just making
Yeah.
sure, man, because I mean Victor's dancing a lot. I was going to make sure that I wasn't confused between 1 and 3. Okay, we're good. All right.
All right. Number 4 is Eric.
Damn.
And number 5 is Stanford. So it would appear that we have a tie, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, between Victor and Scott. You both got 2 points.
Man,
All right,
Guess the
then.
2
Man.
answers correctly.
Arm wrestle, man.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah,
Listen,
do it.
I'm gonna tell you. Okay, so like Eric, for number 5, I had originally wrote Stanford, but I had written him for number 2 because I didn't realize that Daniel had put in an answer for himself, and I was like, "Oh no,
Oh,
crap! I gotta count for Daniel." And then I made it Daniel. I would have won if I had listened to your advice,
Oh,
Eric. If only I
yeah,
had taken your
actually-
class.
oh, so were you not clear on the rules, Victor? Sorry.
Yeah, no, I
that
didn't know
put
the
you in a
rules. I was just playing a game. I'm just here. It's all good.
I
Oh, you
must
probably
say, though,
would have won
I
then.
actually
Yeah, you
forgot
probably
that
would have
Daniel
won.
was also having one too. So I got to, and the only reason I knew it was because mine was number 5. So like mine didn't show up for number 4. So it's like,
So
oh,
he's like,
shit,
it's
one
gotta
of
be
those is
Daniel.
Daniel. Like I wasn't even factoring Daniel into my answers.
I didn't either.
Okay, so
I didn't either.
just so
That's all
you
good.
guys know, this is being recorded. The whole world's going to be able
I
to
love
see.
it. I love it. I love it.
How ridiculous we are.
I love it.
All right.
This was a great
Okay.
game.
Well,
Great game.
A lot of
I
fun.
should have
Okay,
known.
Let me say that
Um,
again. Oh, foul-smelling fecal matter.
Stanford, I just want you to know your sound is kind of oscillating in a circle there.
Oh, okay.
He's spinning in his chair.
He's letting you know from left to right. This is how you're getting it.
There you go.
I love it.
Well,
I love
thank
it.
you so much for seeing the game there, Daniel. And Victor and I will figure out a way to solve this tie at some point in the future.
Yeah, we will.
I love those answers. It was a great time. So what we're going to do now is just talk about favorite line, favorite scene, favorite character, and we'll go ahead and start with our guest, Victor. Favorite line, favorite scene, favorite character, favorite theme, favorite color in this show.
So this is very difficult for this particular episode because I did not like this episode. I've been a fan of the series thus far. Obviously, last week's was an emotional, just this episode I did not like. So it's very difficult for me to pick a favorite. And part of the reason why I did not like it is because I felt like this episode lost its ground, because what the premise has been thus far is the setup of saying there was a specific moment that changed and this is what now has occurred, and they failed to do that in this episode. And the thing that really makes it is, I'm gonna put on my narratologist hat, the thing that makes it a failure to me is the framework of their story is a lie. The death of the Avengers is not the thing that changed. That's not it. It's the fact that Hope was recruited that is different, and that never happened. And that's the thing that it throws it all the way off, because the thing that changed, they never acknowledge what it is. Now I get that they were trying to keep it a mystery, but that's the problem, is you were trying to do a thing and it made you tell a lackluster story based on the theme. It was fun, but they didn't do a good job of adhering to their own thematic rules of there is a thing that changed and these are some of the outcomes. That's my biggest problem with this.
Well,
this episode.
I mean, in theory, they did acknowledge it at the very end to to retroactively explain everything.
Right.
For me, it's like I go one step further. The reason I didn't like this is that they did the one thing that makes a mystery not a mystery, which is they created a mystery for which the audience had no hope of ever solving.
Exactly.
Because we did not know, we didn't even know that Hope was dead, let alone that she was in S.H.I.E.L.D. So we didn't have any of the requisite clue whatsoever to get to the bottom of the mystery. And the irony is they could have done it. They could have made this, what if Hope had joined S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Right.
because like, you know, because you have the whole thing with her mother, you know, her mother disappears, right? The other thing that didn't make sense about this, that they had an even easier out for all of this, right? Which was, what if Janet had died? As opposed to disappearing into the quantum realm, what if she had just flat out died?
Right.
Right. Again, that would have been just as good of an explanation for Hank Pym to be seeking revenge. But ultimately, I agree with you, Victor. The problem is that part of this is that it's a mystery.
Right.
It's what happens if, but they didn't give us the what happens.
Right. And that's what I mean. Like the what if part is what they failed to do, especially when you're considering that they are conjoining two different phases. Like they're conjoining phase 1 and phase 2, right? But by the time we get to phase 2, think about all the things that we know. Hank's whole perspective of it's S.H.I.E.L.D.'s fault might not actually be true. Like by the time we get to introducing Ant-Man, we know that Hydra had infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D. and theoretically, like this is how deep it goes in terms of how badly they kind of set this up. Theoretically, the person that killed Hope was the Winter Soldier, who would have been initiated by Hydra inside of S.H.I.E.L.D. So who he's mad at is absolutely wrong. It's not that S.H.I.E.L.D. had her as an agent, it's that Hydra killed her. And he doesn't know that that's the case. Like Hank has been a day one member, like SSR member, before it was even S.H.I.E.L.D. So he had no clue whatsoever. He's totally blaming the absolute wrong person. Now, granted, he did have the crazy eyes, which makes it like, okay, fine, he don't make no sense.
He had the Sith Lord eyes, you know.
He really did. Like, you know, I was expecting lightning at any moment, but that's the thing. Like, again, phenomenological narratologist speaking, there were things that they did not set up well to make this work. They wanted it to be about if the Avengers died, but and then going back to my point from the answers, the only persons that Hank could fight were people that were human. They had to be in a human state in order for him to even initiate attacking them. Anybody that wasn't, he couldn't beat them.
I gotta call. I don't believe that. I think that with the science at his disposal, he could have figured out ways to kill even the superpowered ones. I don't
think he had the access to know about them.
What do you mean?
So like the only person on a very superpowered level that he killed was a total accident was Thor, right? Like he killed Thor to implicate Hawkeye. He wasn't aiming to kill Thor specifically, right?
Right, but that's like saying, well, I mean, just because he doesn't have superpowers,
right,
like in his body, does not mean that he's incapable of killing super. He
couldn't beat Loki.
Superhero.
Using all the tactics that he had, he couldn't beat Loki. He couldn't even hit Loki. So Loki, being somebody that everybody else has literally destroyed, he couldn't beat that guy. How could he beat anybody else?
But that's like saying Batman can't beat anybody with superpowers.
No, because the framework is not that. In this context, the only person that Hank actually went after were people that weren't superpowered. That's not saying that in the totality of anything possible, but I'm saying that in this framework, if somebody had powers, he couldn't beat them because he didn't know how to fight their powers. Batman, of course, as a character, is written to be able to beat people with powers.
Hank Pym does have access to information. He does. That's established. No, because Hank Pym was a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent back in the 1980s.
Well, SSR, it wasn't S.H.I.E.L.D. yet.
Well, right, SSR. And his resentment is that Hope joined S.H.I.E.L.D. and she dies in action, so she blames the employer. See, I guess unlike you, I don't have a problem with that element of it. That actually makes complete sense to me. That like sometimes you blame who you blame. It doesn't matter whether they're the people you should blame.
Right.
So even if S.H.I.E.L.D. is really Hydra, he's in his worldview, it's my former employer,
right?
Done gone, messed up my life, and killed my baby.
But he did not go after the Winter Soldier. Why? Because he knew better.
Okay, I think we have to take this conversation to the post-credits arm wrestling bit. But
I'm sorry, we're supposed to be talking about favorites, and I'm all like, I didn't like it. I'm sorry.
No, well,
So-
I'm going to get back to the idea of, why you guys didn't like it. The first two episodes, there was an emotional understanding of who the character was that they were changing.
Mhm.
And they told you precisely what change had been made that launched everything.
Mhm.
And that gave the story a focus that the audience could then take with them through the 30 minutes, knowing what they're simulating against.
Mhm.
This time we had no grounding for what we were simulating against, except all these deaths. And because of that, it just became a bit narratively amorphous for me. It didn't have a core, other than what happened if all these people died.
Mhm.
And the fact that it was Pym really was kind of ancillary. There was no real, for me, like, okay, what if Captain Carter were the first Avenger, right? What if Chala became Star-Lord? Those are emotional questions, and Pym losing his mind isn't an emotional question for me, right? It's just a
he's
dude
already
losing his
crazy.
mind. So it's and I gotta tell you, I think it's a bit odd to see such clear focus for 2 episodes and to be so aware of what makes it tick, and then to just not do it. I was a little surprised.
Right.
Well, it's gonna be like with any show like this. There are gonna be some misses. I was
Oh,
just
of
waiting
course.
for yeah.
And
So
I
the
would
thing-
like to jump in here that, like earlier, some of y'all used the term hot and cold, right? I mean, I really wish I could remember who said this original quote, but I remember reading a film scholar talk about how the only sin in art or film is to be unmemorable, right? So you love something, you hate something,
That's
you
true.
still remember it, right?
That's true.
And I mean, look how much we're dissecting this. So
Well-
we still obviously care about it.
Well,
Oh,
the
yeah.
thing is, I care about it, and I guess what I'm saying is, if they had done nine episodes of very clear description of one person or one event that changed, and I keep that in my mind as I experience everything, and I've got this nice whole that I'm going through, WHOLE. That's a collection of 9 coherent works.
Mhm.
And when they let that fall off in the third one, it's like, I'm not going to say they weren't at the wheel like I thought they were, but I just surprised that they didn't realize how those first 2 were really making their punches, which was an emotional connection with
Right.
one person and then changing it.
Right.
Well, it was kind of like a what if for the writers too, in the sense I think that maybe they were like, hey, the first 2 episodes, or like, and hopefully other ones as well,
Right.
we're giving a very clear sense of what changed at the very beginning, so the audience knows, and then we're showing sort of like what happens. Here, it was almost felt like an experiment where they said, we're going to reveal the one change factor at the very end.
Mhm.
Which I think might have potentially worked had it all sort of come together, but it's obvious that it didn't come together for each of us in different ways for different reasons. Like,
Right.
partly for me, it was just really simple. I just didn't believe that Hank Pym, like, maybe if they had showed more of Hank Pym and how he just kept going on this downward spiral and eventually get those crazy eyes, and
Right.
but he just appears out of nowhere. He's crazy. I mean, yes, he lost hope, but a lot of people lose people and they don't necessarily become psychopath. Like
He didn't
start
after
raving
he
mad
lost
mur-
Janet. Like,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
My
I just didn't
thing is,
buy it. Like kill all. Yeah, I just didn't buy that he was going to kill everyone. Like
Well,
it's just
and, and we all know that before you kill everybody, you take over a major metropolitan city.
got to. Like, he didn't even try. Like,
Yeah.
San Francisco was
Anything,
right
man.
there for the taking. My
Yep.
question is, how do you get the Yellow Jacket suit? That wasn't created till later. Like, it was Darren Cross that created the Yellow Jacket,
Yeah.
not him. So, at least in the MCU, like in
No,
the MCU
it was so
continuity.
cool looking. I just didn't ask questions.
See, yeah, it had you. They had you, man.
They
I
had
couldn't
me
turn the
totally.
narratologist's brain off. I was like, wait.
Well, Daniel, I think that you also pick up on something really interesting was that in these last 2, the characters who were changed the most, who's changed, like created the ripple effects, were characters who the audience have garnered a great deal of sympathy for, not just within the narrative, but also outside the narrative. So because there's a general feeling that Haley Atwell's Agent Carter didn't get a fair shot in terms of her in terms of her character in the movies, but also when they tried to move her out into television, right? And then there's also a lot of feels around not just Black Panther the character, but Chadwick Boseman the man, right? Yeah. So in both of these cases, it was also about like with Agent Carter, I felt like part of what I was dealing with, I was like, my first thought was she's finally getting her due. Right? Like she's finally getting her due. And and my daughter said something really interesting. She said she deserves to be Captain America more than Steve Rogers ever did. Mm-hmm. And then with Chadwick Boseman, it's like it's a life lost, right? So it's like seeing him thrive, right? Means something.
That's what I was trying to get at. No, that's the thing. There's no emotional connection to him, right?
No one made us care about him.
No. Right. I want to go back to Daniel's point about maybe they put the what if at the end. And boy, if they did that on purpose, imagine the conversation they're having about us if they watch this podcast.
They should be watching us.
It's like, oh, you know what? Those guys didn't get it. the one guy got it, but the rest of them.
I mean, but that's the thing. Like, again, when you set a framework up, that is the expectation, you know. And we're not just talking about the show. We are fans of the comic series, where the comic series itself comes from a focused point that you're going to say, okay, here's the starting point, and now things change. And the way that they tried to present this was that the starting point was the death of Tony Stark, but that's not the change. That's not when the change actually occurs. Right. It is one of the outcomes of the change. And all they had to say was, what if Hope followed in the footsteps of her parents? That's the question.
Yeah.
So like yes, they put the sort of what if at the end in the reveal, right? A simple tweak to help us connect that would have been to actually show us in Hank's memories the key moment.
There you go.
Right. And just target it. It could have been as simple as, you know, them sitting down, whoever recruited her sitting down and saying, hey, you know, you got to do this. And then that would have been the watcher's moment where we take off into the tangent.
Yeah.
And then you also add to it that there are a whole bunch of other characters that would have made more sense to do that without even doing a massive what if. Like, it's very believable that the Winter Soldier could have killed all the Avengers, because that's kind of how he's introduced in Civil War, as hunting people down and killing them, right?
Right.
It's also very imaginable that it could have been the Ghost from Ant-Man and Wasp, right? Because what was she doing? She was hunting down and killing and pruning S.H.I.E.L.D. because of what S.H.I.E.L.D. had done to her. You know, and I think that there's that, but also, I mean, I'll say, you know, I like everyone else, I didn't really care that much for this episode, but I also didn't care because it was also incredibly sloppy. My answer to our what if question was actually a response to the sloppiness of what I saw as the writing in this, which is that like when I sat down and looked at it, I was like, okay, so Loki comes to get revenge, you know, to track down the killer. So Loki is given actually a noble mission, right, in this universe,
and then he screws it.
Thor dies, and he has to. And he actually has
Loki,
and he steps into Thor's footsteps. So I think it's really interesting because there's a lot about Loki's character where he could just as easily be a good guy or a bad guy, right? Okay, so once you create that change, right, there's no need for the first Avengers movie.
Well,
let's go harder. Let's go. Based on what you're talking about, you could go even harder and say that Loki was in a position where he gets three empires. He gets Asgard, right? Wow. Thor's not there to challenge him, right? So in the whole showcase of the movie itself, what is it? In Thor gets kicked out. Him and Loki and Odin have their issue. Odin goes into the Odin sleep, right? Loki aims to take over while Odin is in the Odin sleep. He also could take over Jotunheim. Like he brings in Laufey. If he lets Laufey kill Odin and then kills Laufey, he is now not only the head of Asgard, he's the head of Jotunheim, and then can take over Earth if he chooses.
But that's why I had the Terran Galactic Empire.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that makes sense. He gets way more than just Earth.
but he does it. But here's the thing: what's interesting is he's doing it in a mode where he's been set on a heroic path.
Right.
Okay,
He's
let's
been
not.
set to avenge like the good seed of Asgard, right?
Right.
You know, and so there's no need for the Avengers in the first place. The Avengers movie doesn't happen because they're fighting Loki.
Well,
Right.
I'm not in the mood for saving tricksters anyway. That's not what's supposed to happen. Tricksters
Well,
are
he's
tricksters.
got a Loki.
I mean,
Loki's
this
got a
whole
Loki.
thing of trying
Loki's
to
got a
turn
Loki.
Loki into a human is just blah. He's not.
I know it sounds hypocritical of me to say that, but the reality is that's actually what they set up, right?
Well, that's what they set up because they don't understand that the mythology was the trickster god is the one who constantly thwarts human intentionality
Right.
by whatever means he can. That's the
Right.
mission. The mission isn't for him to become good or bad. He's just the chaotic element in life. And when they take that and they humanize it, it's like, oh, we can all turn out great and chaos is gone. And it's like, oh my God.
All right.
No.
So in our
No,
real
no,
life,
no.
what you're saying is
I
that
take it you don't like a Loki show.
That's a whole nother podcast, brother, man. That's no, I don't care
here's the
for
thing.
saving Loki.
It's like for me, the whole idea is what's interesting is that change, which because we've totally repositioned Loki. Even if he's got malignant intent, he's still better positioned to take everything over.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm looking at like a lot of the villains in the Marvel universe are characters that could potentially be good guys in the way that they structured them. Right. So like I'm like, okay, so in this setup, you know, I'm looking at Mordru, right? Mordru's an interesting character because ultimately he's mad because the sorcerers break their own rules.
right. And he's like, you're supposed to be better than this.
Right. So yeah. I mean, I actually had in my mind a way like sort of the path for each of the Redeemers. Like the Abomination and the Hulk are relatively interchangeable. The Hulk is not all that great. He smashes things, and the Abomination could do this. It could just run around and smash stuff.
He can
The
actually take
Crimson
orders
Smart.
better if he chooses.
And he's smart.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that goes
Crimson-
back. I mean, that really goes back to Stan's desire to create troubled heroes.
Mhm.
And
Right.
once that's your goal, you're never going to transcend human narratives. You're never going to tell something about post narrative. Even like Venom isn't really easy symbiote, but it's still told in a human frame. And
Right.
it's not something that we haven't seen. And I guess that's why I get a little frustrated sometimes because I love the struggle. I love the struggle to create something non-human that forces us to re-examine
how we do it. Yeah.
exactly.
Right.
And but that's not the MCU's vibe, and I bought into that. I get it, so I don't expect it from them anymore. So I look elsewhere if I want to get.
I mean, the one character that becomes really interesting in this world they've created is Ultron. If Ultron ever came to be, which I don't think Ultron would necessarily come to be,
Right.
because Tony Stark wouldn't be there to create them. But let's say Ultron gets created somehow. It's like, you know, I mean, a lot of this stuff, what I think is interesting is that Marvel just has a bench of people with powers that if something were to rise up that was that frightening, they're gonna take it out because they still want to keep their turf.
I mean, even Thanos was humanized in the end, right? And for me, that was a huge tragedy. That there was he and the king from Game of Thrones. Who was the
Night King or
the Night King from Game of Thrones? These were two amazingly potential post-human, quote unquote, villains who would have not turned out to be evil, just would have made us re-examine good and evil. And they both collapsed into evil.
Well, it's like the Galactus principle, right? Like Galactus is not evil, he's hungry. And it just happens to be that what he eats features sentient lives on it. And it's unfortunate, but that's not evil, you know.
That's
and I think this, like, and that's the interesting Galactus story is like, what happens if he comes across a corner of the galaxy where people have enough empathy to say, this guy's hungry, how do we feed him?
Yeah.
Well, go to that other planet over there, man. They're really tasty over there.
Well, no, because like,
we have
okay,
this thing called in-group and out-group. And if you go eat our out-group,
there's a Thor series where they pull out a seed from the world tree, and Galactus sends the Surfer to retrieve it, and the Surfer makes the case that this potentially has enough power in it to sate Galactus forever. Like, you could literally save billions of worlds, trillions of lives if you just give him this seed. And Odin's like, no, this has such potential that he could rewrite everything, and I'm not giving it to him. Despite the fact that, like, literally the presentation is, if you give this to me, I will eat it and I will save everybody. This is like, I won't eat planets anymore. And Odin is like, yeah, but the potential of what you could do, not what you said you're going to do, is so great. I'm going to fight you and keep you from having it.
So in the right hands, that could be a really interesting story, right? How do you describe that after space? How do you start without it collapsing into right or wrong, good or bad, and that kind of stuff? So any more, Daniel?
I'm surprised you're not latching on to the fact that empathy could be saving the universe here.
Well, the empathy is always, as Eric was saying, it's an in-group driven phenomenon.
Right.
You know, the only people that have empathy for everything are Buddhists, right? Most people have their empathy tied to a particular way of thought. They have and
I would even argue that Buddhists only have it because of the thing that they're tied to as the connective thread of being Buddhist. You know, you're not born Buddhist, you are shown Buddhism, and therefore you acquire a Buddhist thing. So that's not natural.
Okay, so you guys, this conversation is
I'm sorry, we're all over the place.
No, because the thing is, what this leads to is what I want to call the curse of being. We keep trying to pretend that there's something other for us to be that's better than the entropy engines we are. And I'm tired of that story, because when we keep telling that story, we keep burning the hell out of this planet. Right? Because it doesn't matter. There's a non-spatial temporal me waiting in a non-spatial temporal place. And it allows me to avoid, the destruction that gets created naturally, necessarily, because I be. And
take that, Superman.
There you go, Superman, Kryptonite. No, I'm just saying, those are the stories that I'm looking for. And this episode wasn't it.
More stories for Scott. Okay, got you. All right, I wrote that down.
I got to tell you this, I liked it. I enjoyed it. I watched it twice. If I were 12, I probably would watch it 5 times because the nuances were concerned. But it, for me, it just didn't stand up to 1 and 2, which I thought were just top to bottom coherent achievements. So we'll see if they get back to one change, and then examining, how that change goes. And if they're going to pull the rug out from under us and put the what if at the end, then do it after episode 5.
Right.
Because we're so steeped in expecting the what if one.
Well, I mean, even in the titling of this one, that's where they went wrong, because it's what if Earth lost its mightiest Avengers. Yes. So, you set it up where the thing that changed is the death of the Avengers, but what would have worked even better is if they had framed it where in each of their movies, the Avengers just lost, right? Like Tony loses to the Ironmonger, right. Or, Hulk loses to Abomination. Like that is a better setup. But wait, the thing that we actually changed was Hope was actually a SHIELD agent. Wait, what?
Yeah. Actually, our answers more directly answered the question, the what if question. What if Earth lost its mightiest heroes? Our answers answered that. The episode didn't answer that.
It didn't.
That's fantastic.
I will say that I think that Pym would have died fighting Captain Marvel, because what would have happened was all of his attempts to get at her would have failed, and he would have gone for a last-ditch effort to grow. But he's never done it successfully, and he would have grown erroneously, put it like that, and he would have mimicked what happened to the Hulk. That's how he would have died.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, the other problem is that shrinking and growing is really useless when you're dealing with a being of energy.
Also true.
I mean,
Which
it's
is what that's where he would have been like, you know what?
Unless we're in the quantum realm,
Yep.
right? Then we have other problems. What they could have done with this is actually just been straight up honest. What if something had changed in a minor character? Just straight out there. Who died? Who did what? And we're saying,
Yep.
what, huh? And all of a sudden you see, yeah, even this minor character's actions
Matters.
totally mattered, right?
Good call, Scott. Good
That
call.
would have been a fun way to do it too, because then we were like filling in so many blanks. Wait a minute, stop, Google, who is it?
Right.
We'd have been doing all the back
I mean,
work.
that's true, because I was actually, part of me was thinking that the assassin was the ghost from Ant-Man and Wasp.
Mm.
I get
Because
that.
that was what
because-
she was already doing, and
Right.
people were reacting to something that we couldn't see.
Yeah,
Right.
when the fight with Black Widow, that it made it seem like maybe it was Ghost. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Who
I'm
was
gonna go back
that
to
in
my
that fight,
earlier
by the way?
points.
Actually, I wasn't confused. Who was in that fight with Black Widow?
It was Pym.
It was
Hank.
him.
Yeah, it was Hank.
But wasn't it like It wasn't his
We couldn't
voice.
see him because he was shrinking
He was
and
small.
growing.
Yeah, he was small, and he would hit her. And because of the mass index, his hits are harder when he's smaller. So he was small enough that we couldn't see him, but he could still hit her because he wasn't quantum yet. And so it's like flinging her all over the place.
But wasn't there a voice that was not the Black Widows? It was a voice, and it sounded to me like a female voice. Or did I just totally
I think you might have
imagined it?
you might have
One
put
of
that
those
with,
editing
like this would have
things, man.
answered things so much better.
Hey, one of those internal editing things.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
But
I mean, that was the other thing, this was not a plot remotely designed to have an emotional resonance.
mm-mm.
No.
Like there were no like emotional moments between characters.
No.
It was like a mystery it was just a mystery that we couldn't solve. So it wasn't really a mystery. It was just us walking
just watching.
along with somebody who's figuring shit out.
It was the
Kinda
worst
like
Scooby-Doo episode of all time.
Or
Because like you had to wait till the end to be like, so wait, it was Mr. Raggedy because he did this and this and what?
Exactly.
okay.
Well, he
Kinda
very
like
much
it.
had that look that those Scooby-Doo villains have with
He
those
did.
crazy eyes, like, you darn kids, if it wasn't for you, you know.
Little retro. Kind of like a
Absolutely.
game of Clue where the cards don't matter. Right? It's
I
just
agree.
don't matter.
I agree.
I still want to point out, though, to my earlier argument that notice how much we're discussing this,
True.
right? I
True.
mean,
I
It was
totally
memorable.
agree.
That is in the eye of the beholder, always.
And
But it
you
doesn't mean that you
all-
can't learn from it. That is a tenet.
I'll bet money that all of you thoroughly enjoyed the scene with Fury literally swatting the crap out of Pym.
Fury.
There was nothing Pym
Fury.
could do.
Yeah.
It was just a fantastic scene. Literally slapstick, no pun intended, but the pun intended. It was just hilarious. And that's how I appreciated this episode. All the little repartee, like, oh my God, he's got gorgeous hair. He's gorgeous. Oh, I just died
I
laughing.
mean, I felt a certain kind of way about that.
How'd you
felt
feel
like-
about that?
Bill Coulson is cheating on Steve. Like, whoa, hold up. Hold up. Your love belongs to Steve Rogers, America's ass. Okay.
There you go.
You
There
don't-
go.
You don't admire Thor, sir.
You don't cheat on
Although I
that.
will give Coulson the benefit of the doubt, Steve had not been thought out yet. So
That's true. He
I'll
wasn't
give it
around.
to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't thought out yet.
Nice.
So
Yeah, they had other traditional Marvel banter, and I gotta admit, I like Marvel banter, in bits, and but that's kind of like it was as a banter sandwich, right? It
Right.
just those little gags, but there wasn't the.
but I think that that's necessary, because when you asked us to sort of think about our favorite lines, I couldn't pick one favorite, but it really was the humor. And
Yeah.
many of you know I'm a big fan of horror films, and there's a lot of work on discussing the interplay between horror and humor. And one of the reasons is a tension breaker, right? This is a really freaking dark episode.
it
I mean,
is.
The first two episodes were generally hopeful. I mean, even with the sort of, in the first episode, Peggy and Steve being separated because that's whatever fate had in store,
Right.
they were still very uplifting stories. If this didn't have the humor, it would just be like, what if we took all of these heroes that you've enjoyed and we just freaking take them out, right? I mean, that's all you would have. So
that's-
I really think
Oh.
in this case it was necessary.
Well,
Yeah.
And I
Marvel's
think
always
what's-
had the humor. That's why,
Right.
that's why for me, that's why my answer said, due to the absolute lack of humor in the comic market, once Marvel's out, Image comes around sooner to fill the void because for some reason their humor works even when it's dark. I interrupted
Yeah.
you, Stanford. I'm sorry.
But I also think that you also, Eric, you hit on something, which comes back to what I was talking about earlier about how when I see these alternate reality stories, these what if stories, I actually want to see the what if in which a better world is created than the world that we're in.
Mhm.
Because I'm tired of having, because it gets frustrating when you're always affirming the importance of what has happened.
Mm.
Yeah.
And because this could have very easily been the episode about who rises to fill these voids.
Yeah.
Because all of these things are still happening, and they're sufficiently big enough that that someo's going to fight it. Like someone is gonna fight is gonna fight Ultron. It's not like Ultron's gonna be unopposed. So and you go down the list of all of the problems that they run into. Even if that problem doesn't happen, another problem is there waiting in the wings.
Or like
So-
you play it up where you see that Fury didn't in fact put all his eggs in one basket. Like he did not do that. So
Right.
like instead of it being Tony and all these different characters, which I do have a problem with the fact that in his at the end where it's like, oh, I'm gonna revive Captain Marvel and Captain America. Where was War Machine? Why was War Machine not included? Y'all can't get no left up black guy? Like, what's that? But like, that's the thing is like, he'd have backups. He would know about Bill Foster and the fact that Bill Foster did in fact become Giant Man. He would know about these other characters that
And he did know about Ghost.
Right. Like he should have known about Ghost, right? Like he should definitely have known who she was. So like, Fury should know about Ghost by way of knowing about Bill Foster. And so like all those things should have worked together to put them in this position where it's like, if these guys failed, then the next rung of superheroes that Fury had access to, that's what he would have initiated. Like he would have made Pym, like Hank Pym would have become an Avenger because that's what Fury actually had in his back pocket. These guys were a little older, but that's the whole thing. Like what is it? Captain Marvel being the very first Avenger, so to speak, that Fury had is not true. Like it shouldn't have been true. He should have had Foster and all these other people in his Rolodex because they were already doing it. Like that's how Janet died. She was essentially being an Avenger. It was a spy-based one, but that's what she was.
Right, because this basically because what they've established is that S.H.I.E.L.D. has had metahumans working for them since before they existed.
Right. He's got Batroc the Leaper, who he hired in Winter Soldier. So Batroc is somebody that he would have on his team. Like, I'm gonna hire you to do this. Like, you are now my Natasha or Hawkeye. Like, that's your job now.
And technically, actually, it's not just that he would have known about Bill Foster, but Bill Foster and the Ghost were actually both on the S.H.I.E.L.D. payroll.
Because they were doing experiments. Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
I do think they're going to do a dark, I guess this was a dark episode. I think they're going to do more. And I think it'll actually matter more when they get back to one person not being there and really, really dark things happening. So any final comments, guys?
This week, Marvel Voices put out their Identity #1 issue, and the very first vignette in there, and the focus was all on AAPI characters. The first story was Shang-Chi, and he goes to this particular, basically, cult of the Watchers. And they find that it all deals with this artifact that he gets where he confronts an alternative version of himself.
nice.
Right. And so the entire thing is about what if. And the last quote I love is the character says, the what ifs will always be there lurking in the shadows. Right. And so in this case, it was sort of confronting what Stanford pointed out earlier is the sort of what if gone wrong in the darker direction. But it was just part of my experience of the episode this week is reading this comic in tandem.
That's cool.
So that about wraps that up for tonight's episode. Thanks so much for tuning in. What If crew members, please tell the audience where they can find you on social media, and we shall begin with Stanford.
You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Clubhouse at SW Carpenter.
Fantastic. How about you, Eric?
You can find me at the Department of Psychology at Illinois State University, as well as at Eric Wesselmann on Twitter, and my film blog, if you Google film culture, normal theater.
Fantastic. How about you, Daniel?
Facebook and Twitter at Pop Mythology, as well as the actual blog itself, which is www.popmythology.com.
Fantastic. And how about you, Victor?
You guys can find me on all forms of social media at Vantage In-House. Definitely check out our books, vantageinhouse.com. We are your favorite writers of great comics.
Fantastic. I'm on Twitter at dark_loops. You can find all episodes of the What If crew at the Dark Loops Productions channel on YouTube. If you'd like to leave feedback about this podcast, please do so on this page or send an email to darkloopsproductions@gmail.com, and we'll be sure to rate it at the end of our next podcast. So there it is, from all of us to all of you. Big hugs, and remember, we are the Watchers.
The Watchers.
Bye-bye.